My name is Mike Raymond, and I'd like to introduce you to Andrew Patch. We call him Patch. And together we've collaborated to combine two drone service companies, Skycam Drone Service and Heartland Drone Service. And we're going to offer services to AEC industry, architects, engineers, and constructors together. And we're also going to put on a training program called the Air Academy, where we can assist your company with building an in-house drone program, beefing up your existing in-house drone program, or maybe after taking a real hard critical look at the risks and responsibilities of that, deciding that you don't want that in-house and you have the option of hiring us as your subcontractor.
Thanks for the intro, Mike. So my background is started on the creative side with developing creative content using a drone, leveraging a drone's capabilities to produce, videography, photography, things like that. Mike is very talented on the data side. So in today's conversation, we're going to be talking about the data side of the house first with Mike, and then we'll flip it to me to talk about how not only can you get a return on your investment from a data component, that you can apply directly to your job from a tangible standpoint, but the intangibles, the soft benefits of having a drone, you can also push out creative content to help grow your company's brand and your services, and I'll speak to that part.
Also want to let you know that in addition to having you appear here in the seminar, we're also trying to detect the Chinese virus, and we're able to do that with the thermal camera here. Okay. Everyone seems to be pretty healthy. A little bit of a dog and pony show up here. Just a lot of the equipment that we use on a daily basis. And then I got a piece of construction material that we have time to talk about it. And then there'll be some key people that I'm going to introduce as we go along. Am I ready to get started? You're ready to go. Okay. This is our first time doing a co-presentation together. So wish me luck. I've got 26 minutes. So the use of drones in construction has already led to many changes in the AEC industry. In the last few years, drones have helped make many improvements in construction. From increased accuracy in reporting, to improving safety conditions, cutting costs, and increasing efficiency. Artificial intelligence software is also being developed alongside technology, the drone technology, and then this software contains powerful algorithms for processing a drone's data set to provide maps of construction sites. And you'll hear a lot of terms talked about, but I like to use the term data collection instead of taking pictures and taking videos. Data is the new oil, and I believe it's a commodity that's more valuable than oil or maybe even some of the precious metals, especially on a construction site. Some of the ways that you can find out more information that I've created and that Andrew has created using the social media hashtags UAS, the number 4, at AEC, and that stands for Unmanned Aerial Systems for Architects, Engineers, and Constructors. You'll find a lot of social media posts and interactions using that hashtag. Also, AEC is a good buzzword, and then drones are good. The reason I got into drones was more from the life-saving and the public safety standpoint, but I have a background in construction. I've been a tradesman, an estimator, and a project manager for decades now, and I've been able to combine a military career and a civilian career in aviation, a civilian career in construction and computer technology, and now this is my dream job. This is how I can tie it all together. But originally, my first drones were designed to carry life preservers and first aid kits and two-way radios to people that needed that type of assistance remotely. And then it just kind of evolved into being a data collector. So I call myself a data collector, and Andrew will try and drive the point home that it's more beneficial for you as a company, as an estimator, project manager, surveyor, for you to know how to collect data, know how to hire a company or person to collect the data, and then just as a byproduct of that data collection, you'll get the pretty pictures and the videos that can be pushed out on social media and turned into marketing and public relations. While the growing skilled labor shortage continues, drone use in construction has matured to finally meet the high expectations of early adopters. And early adopters, we call ourselves pioneers, but you know what happens to pioneers, right? They end up with arrows in their backs out in the prairie. So sometimes we sacrifice ourselves for the good of a trade or an industry, and that's kind of the way we feel right now. But right now, as a combined team, Patch and I have hundreds of use case scenarios to share with you. I'm going to share 2 with you right now, but there are many, many more depending on which industry you're in. So if I don't hit the nail on the head with what I talk about in these 2 use cases, be sure and look me up and I can find an example of how drones have benefited your particular specialty in the construction industry. So this shows the growth in in industry adoption. Construction was late to the party, but they're going at it full tilt. Once you discover the real-time intelligence, once you discover that you can catch something just as it's going sideways instead of literally 3 or 4 days or 3 or 4 weeks after it's gone sideways, just because you got up to 40 feet or possibly because you got up to 400 feet and had that look-down capability on a daily, weekly, or monthly basis. So this is something that has surprised me, but it has also pointed us in this direction. So with construction taking up this huge part of the industry adoption, we're going to follow the money and we're going to follow the need. In industries such as construction, inspection, and mining, it's not uncommon for workers to face serious injury or even death daily. According to Occupational Safety, OSHA, anybody recognize that beep? Okay. Sometimes it comes from the back of the car.
I was going to say, usually one's in the case when it happens.
In the case, in the back of the car while you're driving 70 miles an hour. Lost connection with the drone. That's either a pucker factor or darn it, I got to stop and turn it off. So according to OSHA, 4,836 workers were killed in 2015 on the job. On average, that means more than 90 people lost their lives each week on job sites in the United States, or approximately 13 deaths every day. In addition, workplace injuries and illness cost employers $1 billion per week in workers' compensation costs. And these estimates don't even include the costs coming from lost productivity, staffing replacements, and repairs to damaged equipment. Seeking better ways to inspect job sites and identify potential hazards before they become dangerous, many companies are increasingly turning to drones and drone mapping to improve overall safety for their workers. By allowing crews to perform remote inspections, real-time information, drone mapping reduces the need to put boots on the ground in potentially dangerous sites. This is a picture of an abandoned, dilapidated building that the city was concerned about, and instead of physically sending a person in, the drone went in and took panorama photos, created a 3D digital twin, and decisions were made based on these photographs as to what to do with that building, but no lives were risked. At most, you might have a $1,000 piece of equipment that's at risk, and I believe that's a fair trade any day of the week. Roof inspections can be very dangerous, as workers are often required to walk atop buildings at extreme heights to check for cracks, leaks, or other potential damage that could require repair. Drones and drone software make it easy to automatically capture aerial imagery for mapping, to detect the leaks, make measurements, and analyze the roofs to identify the issues that need fixing, all without ever having to put a foot on the rooftops. I have a background in commercial and industrial and residential roofing. I have not been on a roof in over 3 years, and my wife is extremely happy about that. However, I have gotten over 100 roofs bought by insurance companies, and I've been able to help roofing contractors and building owners and asset managers detect early problems with their roofs so they can deal with them. For roofing inspections now, we can go out and fly the drones, get high quality imagery, and then we're really minimizing the time spent and the risks. But imagine if instead of 3 roof inspections a day, you could do as many as 6. all from the comfort of the cab of your truck while you're having a cup of coffee. And so this is having a major impact on job site safety, ensuring that workers remain on the ground and out of harm's way until the roof repair is necessary. And when it is necessary, you now have intelligence that tells you where you can set up different pieces of equipment to get manpower up to these areas that need attention. So you're not climbing blind, you're not scaling the roof, you know, in hopes of trying to find an easy avenue. And I've got a really, really good use case coming up here where thousands, in fact tens of thousands of dollars worth of damage was done by the roofing contractor as they were getting up on a roof to repair the roof. Early identification of safety concerns on job sites help minimize safety risks and enable managers to contain environmental hazards before they become costly and dangerous. Project and site managers around the country are putting drones in the air and mapping work sites weekly instead of conducting traditional site inspections on foot. By reducing the time it takes to physically walk the site and inspect the earthwork, drainage dikes, and other areas of concern, managers can generate real-time site maps that offer greater detail than you could ever capture in person. Armed with better, more timely information, you can proactively monitor sites and forecast potential issues before disaster strikes. Drones are improving site inspections by making them safer while also making the inspection workflow twice as efficient. In fact, it probably wouldn't be an exaggeration to say more than twice as efficient. Everything needs to be about safety in our industry, and the successful companies, the profitable companies, safety is definitely part of their culture. Workers have to go home to their families at night, folks. That's our priority. Yes, it's good to create things. Yes, it's good to build things, and the world wouldn't move forward if we didn't do that. But someone not being able to come home to their family would be tragic. We're no longer required to put workers in danger. And if an issue is spotted using the drone's high-resolution cameras, then a good, solid risk mitigation strategy can be thought of and planned out for the repair. This greatly improves productivity because workers no longer need to scale every single structure or hike every single site for inspection. It allows you to react more quickly and increase the rate of inspections. Some of our clients have actually increased their productivity by 50 to 75%. This is an example of a topo map that has 1 foot contour line intervals, and this was generated from a drone flight recently. And there's a lot of information that can be gathered just from this. If you were the earthwork contractor, if you were the developer, if you were the environmental company working with all of this, this gives you essentially a graphical representation of the terrain, how difficult it would be to actually navigate, what type of vehicle you'd need to arrive at the job site with. I would dare say you wouldn't want to bring your family car or your Cadillac to this job site because you're going to be tearing it up. So this kind of information is available at a glance in a customized dashboard that your stakeholders would have access to. So a drone flight, data collection, data processing, and then dissemination of that data set can give you multiple deliverables. So that area was technically surveyed by the drone. It was the DJI RTK Phantom 4 working off of the DRTK base over a known position. Accuracy is 3 centimeters. Resolution is 1/2 inch. This is actually an animation of the point cloud, and I'm just pretending like I'm the drone. So this is post-processing. The drone never actually flew this path. This is just a path that I made up by arranging the scene on the computer, saving a waypoint, and then turning it into a 30 frames per second animation that lasts 60 seconds. All the rest is just literally Pix4D.
Data.
But would you say that was a good site visit? You had a topographical topo map with elevation contour lines at 1 foot intervals, and you had a fly-through of the job site, all from one 35-minute drone flight.
So you got the topo, and then you have this, so that you can visually help interpret the topo, then you really have got something.
Once problems or hazards are spotted, inspectors can take aerial images and assess how to safely address the situation should mobilization be required, dramatically reducing the chance of falls, fatalities occurring on the job. As drone mapping continues to be adopted across a variety of industries, we can expect to see OSHA figures decline from that 2015 statistic that I told you about.
What is this representation called? You said a data cloud?
The bottom left, I think.
This is a point cloud.
Point cloud.
Oh, it's up there. Okay. A point cloud. A point cloud is a visual representation of each individual thing has a point cloud attached to it with a resolution of 1/2 inch. So anything smaller than 1/2 inch will not be represented by a point, but anything larger than 1/2 inch will be represented by a point in a cloud that creates that 3D model. Companies that are serious about reducing work site hazards should actively be considering the use of drones and drone mapping software. By keeping workers out of harm's way, drone mapping can ensure companies small and large alike focus on safety first. Drone mapping is an innovative and cost-efficient way to capture information from dangerous areas without the need to put personnel into compromising situations on their job sites. Any site manager is all too aware most industrial accidents are the result of slips, trips, or falls. In fact, falls are the leading cause of death in industrial job sites and were responsible for 800 OSHA reported fatalities in 2015. Drones are also used to save money and time on job sites. I like to lead with the saving lives. That just kind of comes from my heart. But realistically, thinking as a business person, if you can save time and money, or make more money and save time, the chance for success is greater. So what I'm proposing is that with the proper advice, your company, your entity could be successful using drones. Without the proper advice, by doing it on your own, by bootstrapping your own drone program, I would say that that it's a 5-year learning curve, safe to say, and we could put our combined years together and in about 6 months have you at that level. So shaving 4.5 years off of your learning curve. When I got into drones, the barrier of entry was huge. You had to have a fixed wing private pilot license, ultralight, hot air balloon, some 333 type rating. You had to prove to companies that you had hundreds of hours of safe flight operations, and you had to have the very best equipment, which was all bespoke type equipment, and you had to have huge levels of insurance. I'd like to say that the barrier of entry has been reduced dramatically. The ease of use is much greater now, and so I think that now we're going to go into a period of time that's going to accelerate the use and the adoption of drones. Old school, I mean, obviously drones have been around a long time. They fashioned some of the World War II bombers into flying bombs with no pilots on board. It was just simply a matter of scale and a matter of economy, but people have been operating remote vehicles for years and years. But the advent of miniaturized electronics and other technologies have really accelerated the use of it. Some of the drones that you might see flying around a job site today, this is a Phantom 4. Here is the DJI 600 with looks like RTK antennas. This is the enterprise level Mavic Zoom, And they would have spotlights and other different type of detachable and attachable devices on the top, and then this would be a good construction camera. Here's the venerable Inspire 1. I have one here on the table. This one was built in 2014, and I call it my F350. It's a workhorse. I have many batteries and 4 different sensors to mount on it. I don't know, anybody have one of these? Topcon, Intel? They were attractive for a while, but I've seen a dozen of them in boxes in engineering firms, closets. The flight time was miserable. The interface was terrible. The camera operation was non-existent. They used a gimbal that actually was brush motors and crazy things like that. But people invested in these technologies all along the way. All right, let's get into a real case example, and then I'll turn it over to Andrew here. My client was the Foley Company, Interfab. You might know of Interfab. In fact, Kevin Waddell is here teaching one of the classes. There's a pump station installation for sewage. KCMO bought a lot, or a series of lots down at 64th and Wilson. And so this is a Google Earth image that I pulled up on the 4th. In fact, I did a poor man's trademark. This was February 4th, 2020. This was on Google Earth. Well, guess what? This is not what the site looks like today. But if you were an estimator and you had to estimate how much it would take to install a pump station on this particular site, part of your bid would be for moving X number of tons or cubic yards or cubic feet of asphalt-based shingles and other construction debris that completely cover the site in this photograph. Well, guess what? This photo is actually 2 years old, because for 2 years now, this site has been under some level of development. So real-time intelligence, if you dispatched a data collector, you would have real-time intelligence. In fact, this is Google Earth by tilting the camera, which you can do in heavily processed areas. Some rural areas, you don't have the ability to tilt the Google Earth image, but this still would give you ancient information. And so this was the first flight where I mapped the existing conditions, slightly different than Google Earth, but still the entire site was covered. And what happened was they hired me to fly over this job site to help them determine how many cubic yards of material was to be moved. Using a post-processing algorithm called cut and fill, we were able to determine the stockpile volume that existed on this lot, and we were able to give them this data, and it went into their bid, so they were accurately able to cover their expenses in moving this debris. And then the second mission was to actually confirm that the debris was moved properly and fully. And what happened was there was a little bit of a misunderstanding as to what was going to happen, but there's a property line, and that property line also had a setback. So if you're installing a pump station and you're occupying the whole property for the duration of the construction, you're going to need a buffer zone in order for your equipment to maneuver around and your dump trucks and things like that. So what wasn't taken into account during the initial moving of the material was this buffer zone, and also the fact that they didn't move it fully. Now, short of stringing a string line across this 384-foot, 400-foot job site, basically a little bit larger than a football field, they really had no real way of knowing what they were moving. Here's an example of a 3D model. You can tell because of the black background. It's a point cloud that's been converted into a 3D model, and this is just a screenshot of it. The real resolution on Pix4D is amazing. You can actually tell that those are all shingles. But let me show you what we did. We were able to look at this from different perspectives because we've created this 3D model, and now we can manipulate it in computer space to determine what's what. And I've got another video to play, Andrew. Am I just looking for the poster out there? So here I've animated a point cloud similar to the other one, but instead of turning it into a movie, I'm just recording what I'm able to do. And I'm able to drag this model around in cyberspace, and any stakeholder anywhere in the world do the same thing. And I'm able to align myself with what we determined was the beginning of the property line, which was this walkway. And I'm able to come down and say, whoa, wait a minute, didn't move enough. In addition, there's a big pile of debris still left over here. Now we also have another cool feature, I call it time travel. And we can post several pictures and then create a slider bar and drag that slider bar across to determine progress, change detection, things like that. There are artificial intelligence programs that would detect what was changed, and that would be highlighted in different colors as you programmed it. But this is just a real quick way of saying, well, this is May and this is June, and look at what happened. All right. So we were able to superimpose the buffer zone and do a quick calculation on cut and fill, and we were able to tell the contractor you need to move X number of cubic yards of this material to get back to that safe buffer zone. Here is an example. I don't have these volumes actually populated, but this is what we call an annotation tabulation. So each one of those annotations has a value and a color and things that you can assign. You can also overlay PDFs of your plans, and here's the plan of the sewer cutting through that property and making the turn that they were going to intercept. So knowing how you're faring against design is a main goal. With regular progress and productivity tracking, you can spot problems before they become expensive. Think of it as a difference between planning ahead and reacting. And I guarantee you, from a business perspective, planning ahead versus reacting is more profitable. Anybody disagree? All right. So, here's what I did. I strung a virtual string line across the debris field, and now, graphically, everyone knows what needs to be accomplished. Everyone knows what happened. So this is today. This is that buffer zone that exists now that didn't before. And this is the deeply in the ground pump station, and they're just about ready to install the equipment and get that underway. Real quick, I've got 30 seconds. This is a roof inspection for Visitation Church, built in 1920 down at 51st in Maine. The parish had a committee that paid for this drone inspection because the past roofing contractor created more problems than they solved. This is Ludovici barrel tile terracotta roof. It's about $300 a square foot. And so I followed the pieces. I just looked for broken pieces, and I made an annotation at each of these places. There's a cracked barrel tile. There's missing tiles. There's a hole. In fact, they didn't even repair this with a real barrel tile. They just repaired it with mortar, which then a hailstone cracked. And here's the worst offense right here. This is a valley that they walked up. And so there's thousands, tens of thousands of dollars worth of damage inside the church, and no one was allowed to step a foot on the church. This is just another animation of the 3D model. Real quick, cell towers are a ripe market for inspections by drones. And I'm going to introduce PJ Piper. Go ahead and stand up, PJ. PJ's with Aware Vehicles, and this is the concept. It's a working concept. We're going to do a flight at lunch. This is a drone in a box, essentially. There's going to be a weatherproof box on your job site. The drone will take off, fly an automated mission, return to the box, land precisely on a QR code, attach itself magnetically to the docking station, and then discharge data, charge the battery, and be ready for the next mission. And in the meantime, inside of here, The information is being stitched into 3D models, point clouds, 360-degree panoramas, and it's being transmitted either by Wi-Fi or by cellular to the stakeholders. Real-time intelligence.
Drone technology has improved dramatically with autonomous route planning and obstacle avoidance significantly simplifying UAV operator flight requirements. However, the last yard in autonomous landing and turnaround has precluded fully autonomous drone operation, requiring a pilot to land within a certain proximity, collect the drone manually, and then recharge it between flights. Aware Vehicles, working with the National Science Foundation, Department of Transportation, and Black & Veatch, has developed a mobile smart docking station that can serve as a communications, edge computing, and recharging solution that finally eliminates the need for joystick flight control, anxiety associated with UAV range limitations, and delays in real-time data analytics and actionable intelligence for applications ranging from infrastructure to ag tech, defense, disaster response, and logistics.
So be sure and pick his brain afterwards, because I envision a drone in a box on every job site of a certain size, a certain volume, giving stakeholders daily, in fact several times a day, real-time intelligence.
Do you think that drones can be used, like, when you're taking off earthwork, can you use that, like, primarily, or is that still something that you use maybe like ag tech for and use it just kind of as a side-by-side comparison? And if not, do you think, or when do you think it could be primarily used to take off any earthwork?
So we have a surveyor in the group. Your specialty is earthwork. Your company's specialty is earthwork. And you guys are pro drones, and you're looking to replace your current workflow with drones. So I would imagine that they're going to be the first deployed and then most often deployed asset on a construction site. Now, the real winner, the biggest winner in the use of drones in construction has got to be the client. Because at this point, you can create these detailed visual reports, these data sets, and then they can be shared. This is helping everyone involved in a construction project to see what has been done and what's remaining to be done. Anybody have any questions? Yes.
Okay, for the surveyor, drone drivers, all that, doing any development, 30 houses, a subdivision, some of the lots are very odd shaped, and the setbacks and all of that are critical, that the house is exactly in the right spot. That the house is designed for that lot. And does the drone give me, as a developer, the ability to say, this is the corner of the house? This is where the house is going to go?
Absolutely. You could.
Because that's, my problem is, we get the house built, and it's 2 feet into.
Yeah, 2 feet into the neighborhood. So for planning, I would call it the missing piece of the puzzle right now, because you could survey the lot, do an overlay, a topographical overlay, a plan overlay, and you could extract by clicking on your computer screen the exact GPS coordinate that you could send somebody out there with a rover set up and say, this is the corner of this building.
There's the money.
All right. Real quick, I'm going to introduce our drone supplier, Eric Wiskrop.
Hello.
With Laser Specialist. Be sure to get a card from him. They are a supplier of mapping drones and surveying equipment. How much are things over at Patch? Thank you for your attention.
I said, it's huge. Every time we place a house, we got to call a surveyor.
Yep. The site that Mike was working on earlier last week, I was on the same site, and the surveyor was on top of the foundation, measuring the perimeter of the foundation,
Yeah.
likely to determine exactly what you're talking about.
So what I want to know is, you know, what I pay the surveyor for is my setback marks. And then we do the string lines exactly over his point, and that's set back from my forms, so that my forms are in exactly the right place, so that I'm not over the line. And we fudge, we give away 3 inches, 4 inches, just to be safe. And
You'll be able to go right out there and nail it.
well, That's money, kids.
That's money.
Yeah.
Okay,
That's a big
so,
one. That's a big one.
so Mike talked to y'all about return on investment, right? So being able to identify stockpiles, saving money, saving time, right? All of the tangible assets. Well, I want to take a few minutes to talk to you about your value on investment, okay? And so what is, ROI compared to VOI, right? Well, I view it as one is tangible, one is intangible. The tangible, return on investment, materials, assets, money. The value on investment, well, that's the knowledge, process, and brand that you're able to get out of having a drone operation, right? Hard benefits versus soft benefits. So Eric Soriano, he challenged us as presenters to challenge you guys, right? And it's even written over there, challenge your knowledge. So I want to challenge you guys to start thinking outside the box on what you can control in your role and how you can help your company in other ways outside of the things that you focus on from a day-to-day basis. And so the approach that I take to that is to put on your marketing cap, okay? And so I'm challenging you guys to if you're incorporating a drone into your operation, realize that drones help companies create new, exciting, stunning, beautiful content, right? So you're going out on a site, right, to conduct measurements, to maybe put together a 360-degree panorama of the site so you can estimate off of that, right? So you can make informed decisions in the pre-construction phase. But during that time, you're also capturing content that you can repurpose and push out through social media, on your website. Perhaps your company does print ads, right? You are capturing content that can be used for data purposes, but then it can also be repurposed into marketing and promotion, okay? And so that's the way that I want to challenge you guys to start thinking outside the box or beyond the box, beyond, just your capabilities as an estimator, okay? Now, but I get this pushback a lot, okay? Andrew, I'm not creative, okay? And I get that. That's fine. If you have that stance that you're not a creative person, right? Maybe you're a left brain thinker, you're analytical, right? You're mathematical. Maybe you just aren't wired to think from a creative standpoint. Well, I like to describe it this way, okay? Not every marketing can capture data, okay? So not every flight out to a job site can capture data points, can do 2D mapping, 3D mapping, right? Orthomosaics. Not every marketing flight can do that, but every data flight, every reason you're going out to a site to capture data, that imagery can be used to capture marketing, right? So that means that you guys don't have an excuse, okay? If you're going out on a site for data capture purposes, you don't have an excuse to say, oh, but I'm not creative. Well, the drone just captured a whole bunch of really creative stuff, okay? You view it as data, but then it can also be viewed as marketing, promotional types of material, okay? So how do you create content, right? Really, when I challenge folks to start thinking in a creative way, they ask me, okay, what steps do they need to take? And really, it's as simple as just to start documenting your process, right? So tell your story. Hell, tell clients that you're using drones for your projects, okay? Because that's cool. So an example would be if you're going out on a project site, right, and you're putting together a two-dimensional or three-dimensional map, right? Document your process, right? And it's that story that is, in essence, marketing, right? So let's kind of reverse engineer this, right? So if you want to have a successful business, right? If you want to have a business that makes money, right? Well, that's sales, right? Without sales, you don't have a successful business. Without sales, you don't have a business. Well, what comes before sales? Marketing, right? So what's the difference between the two? Marketing is getting people excited about the goods and services that you offer. It's that excitement, it's that interest that then leads to the sale, okay? So it's a crucial component, right? And so if you're going out and maybe the goods and services that you offer incorporate you going out on a job site and using a drone to capture that data, right? And that's part of your product offering, or maybe maybe your company implements drones in different ways to make your company leaner, more efficient, right? To do a better job serving the customer. If you can now describe that, right, to your customers, if you can describe that, hey, we are using drones for these purposes in these ways. We've used drones to help clients save time, money, and resources. Now, you are not only capturing from a data standpoint, but then you are also hitting on that marketing, business development side of the house, right? Okay, so again, challenging you guys to think outside the box here, okay? So here's an example, 360-degree panorama. So why would you capture a 360-degree panorama? Well, basically, for those of you who don't know what this is, a simple way to create a 360-degree pano is you fly above a job site. You can use a third-party app, and the drone will actually take 22 photos on its own. It will then stitch those photos together, and in about 10 to 15 minutes, you, now the pilot, can access a fully stitched 360-degree high-resolution panorama of the job site that you're on, right? Okay, so you would capture that possibly to look at a job site before ground is broken, right? Maybe it's a piece of real estate that the company is wanting to acquire, and you're there in the pre-construction phase, right? Or maybe it's already been acquired, right? Whatever. And this 360-degree panorama is used to send to people who are associated with the project. Maybe there's key stakeholders. Maybe some people live in other states, right? There might be money in the deal, and they live in other states, and you have to communicate with those investors. Okay? So here's an example of a 360-degree pano. Okay, so this one is in Lawrence that we put together. And it's pretty slick, right? So in this case, the drone is at an altitude of about 300 feet. And if you looked at this on Google Earth, it wouldn't look like this. That road wouldn't even be there, okay? There were some annotations on the materials provided by the commercial real estate company that said possible debris site or possible dump site, and they picked out a point on the map. Well, it was this point on the map, right? So this was the same point cloud that Mike flew earlier, right?
Yes.
This is about a 25-foot drop off into a giant dump site, okay? But if you looked at this on Google Earth, you wouldn't see this. It just doesn't look like that, okay? So, all right.
But you can zoom in too.
Yeah, thank you.
And if you ever receive one of these on your mobile device and it's shaking around, look for a symbol in the lower right corner. It looks like the Earth, looks like a globe, and click it. And what you'll do is you'll turn off the gyro mechanism in your phone or your mobile device, and you'll manually be able to maneuver rather than let your gyro device.
Okay, so that's a 360-degree panorama, right? Now, you might, in the past, have done these first two steps, okay? You're going out there to capture it because you're going to be giving this footage to people who are associated with the jobs. And then stopped there. Maybe you stopped there, okay? But now challenge yourself to capture some additional data or just do some additional things with the data, okay? So that's what I call the opportunity to maximize your value on investment, okay? So now you can take one of those photos out of the deck, right? Because it takes 22 photos. You can just take one of those photos that the drone already captured for you, right? And you can post it on your website. You can post it on your social media. You can describe what's happening in the photo, right? To tell what the reason why your company was there, what you guys are up to, or why you think drones are awesome, whatever. Add a little description with that, okay? And that tells the world how excited you are to be working on the project or how much you appreciate working with that customer for that opportunity, okay? The story is whatever you guys want to make of it, right? But the thought there is it's already captured the data for you. And instead of stopping there, just squeeze a little bit more out of that, okay? Another example is taking that same photo, right, and turning that into a post for for social media, a wide shot. I was there to capture a 360-degree panorama, but before you left the site, you fly up in the top, far away off in the corner, you get a wide shot of the property, right? And turn it into a post. Okay? When it comes to social media, I think most of us in the room, I mean, we are on social media. You see what it looks like. It's so easy to do. Okay. Another example would be an orbit video. Okay? So here's an example. Here's an example of an orbit video. Music. Okay, so this is a project site called Mission Gateway, and I go out to Mission Gateway and fly that site every 2 weeks. Okay, a progression photo like this, and in this video you'll notice that the north and east elevations it changes. Okay, so the walls are going up. This is really a difference of like 10 days. Okay, but if you're going out, if you are going out and flying and capturing an orbit video, right? That might be because you want to put together project progression just to show what the job site looks like, right? You might want to have to give that to key stakeholders associated with the project manager, superintendent, whatever, okay? Maybe in the past you stopped there. But now, again, opportunity for value on investment, right? You can upload that orbit footage to your website, social media. If you aren't comfortable doing that, again, there's no excuses. Flip it to somebody in your company who is comfortable doing that, right? That could be a marketing person or somebody who has that role to where they post to your accounts, right? But then the other thing that you're doing is, in the case of Mission Gateway, that's a project site that has a lot of public attention because that development site has kind of been scrutinized for several years because it's just been a giant eyesore. And so this is a way for your company, if you're a person or a key stakeholder associated with this project, this is a chance for you then to also send this material to local news, right? Or to just be able to promote it on your social media and on your website to show like, hey, not only is stuff happening at this project site, but look where we're at, and we're excited about where it's going. Okay, so you can, again, you're telling that story, okay, and it's really easy. It's really easy to do. And the byproduct of that is generating a buzz around your brand and what you guys do, and always building your brand, winning more opportunity from that, leading to sales. Okay, risk management. So also affectionately referred to as cover your ass, right? So before photos, during photos, and after photos, right? So the why on this is, why would you do risk management documentation? To document site conditions before, during, and after, right? But then who's this going to, or who's it protecting in this case? It's protecting maybe your company because the building owner next door can't come out and say, hey, you damaged our parking lot with all of your equipment. And maybe you guys have heard of examples like that at your company in the past. Okay, awesome. So here's an example, right? Easy example of a project site. This is going to be a bank. In fact, I took these photos a couple years ago, so it already is a bank. But I went out during the build of this, or the development of this location, and captured photos from different times. So here's an example of not just showing what the property looks like, but then some of the surrounding areas, right? The parking lot that butts up to it, the building to the east, the road to the west, right? But maybe in the past, this is where you would have stopped on your documentation, right? But again, squeeze more out of this. You have this stunning imagery, because that's what drones do. They capture stunning imagery. Take that, post it to your website and social media, right? Reoccurring theme here. But then maybe your company has a monthly newsletter, right? Email newsletter. This would be a great thing to add to that newsletter as an update on, hey, here are the projects that we're working on, right? And again, if you don't know how to do that, flip it to somebody in your company that does, because maybe they maybe don't have the resources to go out and capture all of this creative stuff because they're working, behind their desk and focused on a million other things. But if you're already out there capturing the content, then flip it to them, okay? And if it's not happening, make a point to have it happen. I'm sure the creative folks on marketing teams or business development are always looking for ways to generate more business and help their brand, okay? But anyways, I already kind of mentioned this, but the term for this is just repurposing footage, okay? And again, going back to the way of thinking outside the box and thinking that, and adopting the fact that you can have more of an impact on what you do and contribute to the company. You know, not every marketing flight, not every marketing person who goes out to a job site can capture this data. But if you're going out there as a data person to capture the data, then it's all marketing footage, okay? As a secondary footage. Andrew, I don't know how to do social media. Someone at your company does.
Oh, yeah.
Or you have a niece or a nephew, or a grandson or a granddaughter. That's not an excuse, okay?
Anybody that types with two thumbs is ahead of me.
And what we like to do, and Mike kind of already alluded to this, but companies certainly should feel empowered to try to take on drones, to try to incorporate drones into what they're doing. Maybe your company already has a drone program, or maybe you're thinking about building a drone program. But as Mike mentioned, it can be a learning curve. And if you're wanting to develop a rock-solid in-house program, then that learning curve, if you're doing it on your own, it could take 4 to 5 years to do that. Because that's how long it took Mike and I to develop Heartland Drone to where it is now. Because policies are changing from the federal, state, and local level. And by the way, after lunch, come back right here, and I'll be joined with Tim Laughlin. He's an attorney who specializes in drone law. We're going to be talking about, hey, not only do you just have to have your Part 107 license, but there's probably 12 or 13 other things that you should be doing. And if you're not doing that, then you can be at risk, okay? If something happened, if you crashed your drone, okay? The topic is going to be, if I crash my drone, how would an attorney sue me? So we're going to learn from Tim, like how he would actually sue me.
We wanted to come up with an alternate title for that program. And it's what kind of exotic car is the attorney for the plaintiff going to be driving after they sue me for crashing my drone?
It was a little wordy though. So, but that's the point. Yeah.
But the result of an injury from an associate that I'm aware of was a multi-million-dollar lawsuit from a scratch under a child's eye from a drone crashing, and a bat collided with a light show drone. So completely unavoidable, but yet risky, nonetheless.
Yeah. And so we realize that companies want to try to do it in-house, and that's great. Okay. If you don't want to partner with us or another company as your third-party drone provider, okay. But at least let us help you as consultants to build your in-house program the right way, okay? Because we can fast forward through all of those pitfalls and mishaps that we had, that we learned the hard way. It took us 4 to 5 years to do that, and we can turnkey a program for you guys much faster than that, right? Depending on the size and scope. But realizing that having a drone program is not just having some Part 107 pilots and drones. You have to figure out, okay, what is our standard operating procedure going to be, right? To limit us from liability if something happens. What are we going to do with all the big data that we're getting from the drone, right? How are you then turning that data into dashboards and reviewing that and then actually maximizing what you're getting out of that data? So we've developed a program called Air Academy, and that's symposiums, boot camps, and deep dives, depending on what you're needing with your company, what you're interested in. We will help you develop your own in-house program. And we have our next drone symposium this month on the 28th. It's going to be in Lenexa, so just north of here at Lenexa City Center. We're going to have a competition barbecue for lunch. But prior to that, we're going to have 4 hours of really strong information about February 28th. It's up here. Those are the details. February 28th, 8 a.m. to 1 p.m. Basically 8 to noon, and then at noon we'll have lunch, and then it'll be kind of a working lunch where we'll continue to present while you guys grow on barbecue. But here's a link to the Eventbrite page. If you go to heartlanddronecompany.com, there's a link on our website. Heartlanddronecompany.com, yeah. There's a link on our website that will take you to Air Academy, and here's everything you would need to know about what Air Academy is, and
It'll be the best $150 that you've spent.
Yeah.
It's gonna be a real eye-opening experience, that we're gonna, you know, I'll share some of the mishaps, that have occurred, in hopes of helping you to avoid a similar circumstance.
Yeah, because if you're trying to do it on your own, you're spending a lot of time to do that, you're having to research that on your own, maybe you're spending money, and that money that you're spending is then not being invested. Again, what's the whole point? ROI, right? So we've been through it, we've come from the school of hard knocks when it comes to starting your own drone program, so we're happy to help transfer that information to you guys.
When I walk out of here, I'd like to understand how I set the corners on the lot with a drone. So anybody want to help me, let me know. That's,
But you've got an architect or you've got a land surveyor that has drawn up a set of plans for the subdivision.
I've got a set of plans.
So what you need is a scale topographical map.
I've got a lousy topo map.
Okay, so the drone can give you an accurate, the drone can give you a precise map that you can do an overlay, and then,
And now the ground's been partially graded.
Right.
So nothing's any good anymore.
okay,
And you can help with that.
sure, you'd be able to see your contour lines, you'd be able to see, and that would be an overlay. And then you would simply overlay the PDF, turn your plans into a PDF, overlay that, and then wherever you touch on the computer screen, you're going to get a constant readout of X, Y, and Z. And then all you do is go out in the field with a rover and go to that exact location.
By rover. The only thing that I've ever seen the surveyors do is looks like a spear with a GPS receiver, and they, you know, and then they do a little box thing, and then they give us a steel pin.
Sure. Well, you could drive in a wooden stake with a ribbon on top, and you could say, there's the corner of the house.
Well, what I need is whatever it is that translates the data to a location on the ground.
It's mapping software.
And you've got some instrument, or what is it that you use?
Well, so this is both a base station and a rover, but to do it more quickly and efficiently, there are GPS sticks, essentially, that you would take out there. And you can even program the GPS coordinate that you're trying to find,
Yeah.
and the data collector will steer you in the right direction and say 2 feet to the left,
Yeah.
now 2 centimeters to the left, there's my spot. Drive a stake in right there. And you've just done that procedure that you described,
Yeah, that's
where
exactly
you've
what
taken
I
the
want.
site plans, converted it into a GPS coordinate on a known site that's already been surveyed by the drone, taking into account whatever work's been done,
Yeah.
and throw your geological survey or your whatever county plat out the window at that point, and you'd rely on that drone GPS data.
This is a good one, guys. Are you making mistakes 30 or 40 houses at a time?
It's compounded, for sure.
You think?
So for return on investments, we're compiling a price list for 2020. We're working on a way to communicate and make it efficient for you to go to our website and order things as if you were a hungry person at a restaurant. There's going to be a menu, and each one of the things that we've discussed, in addition to many others, deliverables, is going to have a line item and a value. And there's a singular called a one-off, and then there's a subscription-based price, which is going to be less. So if you sign up for 12 months of service or a recurring service, that number will go down. And then hopefully in the future, as we partner with Aware Vehicles and we create this autonomous drone, the cost of doing a site visit or a Topo Map is going to go down dramatically. And you'll be simply paying a monthly lease for the data. And we'll take care of the supply of the equipment, the maintenance of the equipment, the telecommunications, the risk, and all that kind of stuff. So right now, let's just say $1,100 for a site visit. dropping down to as low as $700 if you're on a subscription-based service,
Mhm.
dropping to as low as $200 if you have an autonomous drone in a box on a job site. And that's when the real changes can start to occur, because at $200 per mission, you can do 3 a month for the same price that you used to pay us to come out and do 1.
What other questions do you all have?
We got a lot of experience in the room. Anybody got any questions?
I have an experience that you guys could have solved. We had a topo,
Yep.
and the topo was not accurate, and the infrastructure was based on the topo, which was based on fall, because we're putting in some big sewer lines. And we did not have enough fall in the center of the line because the topo wasn't accurate. And so, because all the excavation was done grade relative, and the grade wasn't right.
So we have the ability to turn this data into even more actionable data and create a machine, what would you call that, Eric?
Machine control?
Machine
or-
control.
Yeah.
Where now your road graders and your bulldozer blades have GPS pods on either side of the blade, and we could be feeding that kind of data, and it would just simply be a matter of 3 passes and your site is now corrected.
Yeah, I have some experience with the GPS grading. It's was really exciting because it was fairly new to me, but
You're still working in solar?
the data,
Yeah, T&D for Bergen and Hall.
real data connected with the bulldozers and got the GPS blade.
So have real choice success with
When do you guys have that issue with your topo map?
installations,
What was
because
the result?
when you gave your presentation.
About a
3 years ago,
$70,000
We were talking about
comeback
solar
on the
installation,
excavation.
how many posts a day get installed.
It's a decent amount.
So he's got it real. Yeah.
It was,
Could we do 750 or 725? And so,
we worked the deal,
they've got a case study
got
on
hurt
Black
too
and
ugly.
Beach, where they were able to go out and do
but
that.
it was completely avoidable.
Right.
And the way we caught it is I was going, I walked over to the truck and I've got a little stable that you can do angles. And I jumped down in the hole and I put it on top of the pipe and I said, somebody's wrong. And that's how that started.
Violation of the principal
I
rule
got
of
out,
plumbing.
got out of the hole and threw up. But we're talking about some money, you know?
Yeah.
So what I might recommend real quick, going down the lineup here, the DJI Phantom 4 RTK and the DRTK base. Eric sells them as a pair. What's the retail on these now, Eric?
Just a little shot of 9,000 for the,
Okay.
for the com-
For the combo.
combination.
And I recommend the combo. This literally can be a base station or a rover, and I would call it clunky at best versus a, when this is $4,000 and you're comparing it to a $25,000, what would you have? Top of the line?
Dedicated GPS receiver, rover.
Uh-huh. But what, by
That
triple,
was-
or what do you sell?
Was a Leica GMX. That was really designed to operate with the drone, sort of a specific use case.
Yeah.
A secondary use case would be to use it as a rover, but it's not the optimal.
It's
workflow.
clunky, that's how I describe
So,
it.
Yeah.
so
There's some
that
conversions
one is a
back.
rover, does it interface with the app, kind of display, how does it?
On the controllers, it'll give you a GCP, but then you have to do a mathematical calculation to convert it to
Okay.
what a GPS stick, high-end, would give you right out of the gate. But it's good, it's not great. So then this is 3 centimeter resolution, or 3 centimeter accuracy, 1/2 inch resolution. Going down the line here, this is a Parrot Anafi with a thermal camera. Anyone own an Anafi? The beauty of the Parrot Anafi and the Autel Evo is, my analogy is it's like an unlicensed gun. You know, it is not contingent upon the geo-fencing that these other drones are. So if you're in a situation where you can't fly a DJI drone, and this has nothing to do with legal and illegal, this is a legal operation. It's just easier to fly drones that don't have geofences. And so a real experienced drone pilot's going to have one of these in the bag in their vehicle at all times, just in case. Okay.
Because you
And,
you never know when you're gonna get shut out of something that you're legally
Okay,
complying.
so I do T&D inspections. I'm out in rural Iowa, no cell, nothing. And the only way I can fly, because a farmer has identified his field as an airport, the only way for me to fly is to get custom unlock, which requires Wi-Fi or phone service, and I have neither. So on that particular site, even as much advanced planning as I could do, I still have to get out my Evo to fly just that one side. And then this is the FLIR camera, the XT on the Inspire, and we were able to detect an installation problem, an installation complication. This is the stone veneer, a man-made stone veneer. I call it peel and stick. The contractor did a money and time-saving method of creating a donut application of the glue, basically, the mortar, when it should have been fully back buttered according to the specifications. So 25,000 square feet of man-made stone veneer on a mixed-use commercial building, residential, scholastic, and a grocery store, and these 10-pound stones are falling off the wall. So we were able to fly our Inspire with the XT FLIR camera, and the energy from the building transferred only through the mortar attachment. So we were able to see, as if it were an X-ray, the hollow space behind the stones that weren't fully adhered. And the engineer was able to take a man lift up using a map that we created, stitching these photos together, and tap on the exact stones that showed this phenomenon, this anomaly. And rather than going around for 3 weeks tapping every single stone on 25,000 square feet, he was able to ground truth 25 stones and then declare the whole project shut down, ready to demo. So they now have ballistic fabric installed as a safety net until springtime, when they're going to have to take off 25,000 square feet of peel and stick stone veneer and put something else up in the meantime. So really dramatic case studies. I get real excited about things like that. So you're going to crack up. It's actually tragic.
He hits up here and the stone falls off down there.
Yeah.
Right
Oh,
here's where
seriously?
you're watching. Right here's where you're watching. So that's me in a man lift with a man lift operator going up and truthing the data that we captured from the thermal camera.
Oh, my gosh.
So we were able to,
The kids are looking for what?
We had a roadmap.
yeah, we had basically a heat signature on the side of the building. And then we went up and tapped on different areas to truth the data. And not only were we tapping on stones that were falling off in our hand, but in this case, this was 4 feet away, 3.5 feet away, and a stone fell off. And you can actually see in the void right there where after it falls off, you can see the scratch code.
Look in the void right here.
Yeah, so you can see where the donut ring was at. In this case, I don't know if you mentioned this already, it saved about $50,000 to $60,000.
Is that the engineer with you?
No, that's the man lift operator. So his job was to move the boom around.
The engineer during this exact moment is actually inside on the phone with lawyers.
So in this case, saved the building owner about $50,000 to $60,000 because we were able to cut through all of the time spent doing this tap test for the engineer. We were able to cut through all that time by using the drone to capture the data, right? And this is just us truthing it. If the engineer was to do a tap test on 20,000 stones.
3 weeks,
So
I
did-
think. is
so
what
did they
it was.
not
You know
do-
what I like is the magic hammer hit here and falls off over there.
Yeah.
Did they not do all stones that way, just some of them? It depend on who was laying them?
We haven't quite figured out, when they do the demo this spring, we're gonna have access to the site and to be able to document, because we're creating a white paper on this industry-wide. We're gonna be able to show the percentage of improperly laid stones, but all the engineer needed to total the building was 5%.
Yeah. You're lucky that there wasn't some above the sign there when you were tapping.
That's what I
And
said.
the sign fall off on your head.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Andrew's no longer here teaching.
So within 72 hours, they had scaffolding, they had covered scaffolding going down the sidewalks, and within a week, they had this ballistic fabric bolted to the outside of all of where there's a stone veneer, and they're just waiting for a good weather period to go.
Here's another example of what that looks like. This is stitched together. So basically, the heat signature that we can come away with, in this case, the darker shaded areas are areas that would indicate that there is a cooler background behind it, that there is that void, right, that there's cool air. The bright white hot areas, that's indicating that the back of the stone is fully buttered with mortar, because then it turns into a hot plate, right? So as that piece of stone is sitting up there, and if it is fully backed with mortar, as it captures the sun's energy, it's heating up like a hot plate, right? And then as the building cools, it's discharging that, right? But if it has this void, this delaminated area, then that's telling us that it's cooler in that spot.
It
right?
does it at a different rate.
Yeah, it slows at a different rate. So what we can come away with are these blotchy areas, and if it's a darker blotched area, that means that the stone is more cool, in essence, and that is an area that you definitely want to go up and intrude, because it might actually have an air gap behind it or a void. So that's how we were able to pinpoint certain areas and then go up and do tap tests around that and then treat the data.
So for $10,000, they were able to save $55,000
At least.
at least,
At least.
and mitigate the risk immediately versus this long-term. Oh, let's put it off. Let's patch. Let's throw.
All of a sudden, after
Let's go to court for the students you hit in the head with it.
after we had this data, all of a sudden now it's okay. We need to get netting up around this as fast as we can.
Yeah.
Right. So you can make actionable decisions, and we do that in just a day's time.
So as you can tell, we're pumped up about this industry, about this technology. You can come visit us at the booth during lunch. We're going to be available. We're going to do some drone flights. PJ, are you able to fly at lunch?
Yeah, I'm gonna wait till after his legal speech.
Oh, okay.
It's my pitch.
Figure out what
It's
your
my
risk
pitch
is.
for you guys.
Eric, you got anything to add?
No, I'm familiar with thermal a little bit from the roofing industry. Was this flown at night, dusk, morning? Just curious.
Yeah, there were 4 separate flights over 3 days, and it kind of flies in the face of conventional thermography, because I'm used to doing flat roofs as well, and knowing that the golden hour is usually the only time when I can do a fully blown roof analysis with thermography. But what we found was, because it was hot summertime, the building was air conditioned, and because the building was fully occupied with either students, apartment dwellers, or a grocery store, we had energy coming through no matter what. So you can pressurize buildings. You can come in a couple days before, pump up the air conditioner. In the wintertime, you can come in a couple days before and pump up the heat, and then you can create these anomalies.
Temperature differentials.
Yeah, temperature differentials. So we were out there, it was 103 degrees, and the building was air conditioned and covered parking and garage and things like that. So it was really radiating no matter what.
Yeah, and Mike, here's another example of thermal.
Mhm.
You want to speak to what we
This
saw?
is a building down on the plaza with a full brick exterior, but instead of having a void, a space in between the masonry and the stud walls, this building is 109 years old or something close to that. And so it's a full thickness brick assembly right up against the studs. And what we found was there was water intrusion that then sat in the mortar brick substrate until it boiled as a vapor, and then it found its way out in certain areas. You can see the lighter colors, that's hot. So these were areas that coincided almost directly with interior photographs of occupants having problems in those areas around those windows.
We were initially charged with just inspecting all the windows, which by flying the drone closer than this is pretty far out.
This
right?
is from across the street.
Yeah, across the street. But we get up closer and we look around all the windows, and we were able to see that every window had.
They use caulk.
Yeah.
When they did a window replacement about a dozen years ago, that when they changed from the original wood windows to vinyl windows, they used 99-cent tube caulking to adhere to brick and to vinyl.
And when we were there on site, aside from doing the facade and window inspection, we took a moment to fly the roof. We saw an area on the roof where it was a relatively new roof, right? But we saw some areas of water penetration, and it was actually this spot right up here on the roof, okay? So the person who lives in this apartment, and again, this is off the plaza, right? Pretty nice setup. This person in here self-reported photos from inside their apartment where there was water spots on the wall, okay? So we couldn't figure out, or the engineer couldn't figure out at first, why the heck is there water spots on the wall, right? Well, after we did our inspection with thermal and looked at the roof, we saw that there was water penetration going on in this section up here. Water was getting through the roof, hitting a ceiling joist, right, or pipe or something in the substrate, and it was running laterally and then getting into the wall and causing water spots on the wall.
Well, and you can look,
relatively new roof too. Tim.
and you can look at a roof,
Right on time. Here's Tim, the attorney.
Hey, how's it going, everybody? Nice to see you.
and you can look at a roof with an RGB photo and it goes, yeah, it looks good, until you see that water sitting underneath
That's right.
it with the
Yeah,
thermal.
RGB photo would have told me, in fact, it did tell me it's a relatively new roof,
Right.
modern technology, heat welded seams, PVC, single ply. They had the treads put down for wear areas. It looked proper.
Right.
But once we got up there with the thermal camera, it was just lit up like a Christmas tree in several areas. So
Yeah, it's-
lots of great uses for this. I don't want to keep you guys from lunch. Jack's Tent Barbecue is ready.
Yeah.
Thank you for your
Yeah,
time and
thanks, guys.
attention.
Visit us at the booth if you have any other questions
Yeah.
for us. Happy to chat.
Thank you guys.
Thanks.